guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to continue working on some comic pages of mine for my webcomic findsometimes.rained.gankygirl.com, and I'm going to talk a little bit about challenging yourself and using references. I'm starting here with my thumbnail sketch, and I've blown it up to full page size, and at this point I've already selected my reference images and I use them to do the thumbnail sketch, and I'm going to continue to use them while I do the penciling phase, which you're going to see here. So I want to mention that I don't have a lot of experience drawing deer. I did draw them for a little scene earlier in this comic, and that was probably my first time drawing deer. And you know, it is challenging for me to draw animals because I don't draw them frequently enough for my comic. I've started becoming a little more comfortable doing cats just because Frida's in this comic all the time. But you know, you just have to get over your fears and just challenge yourself and do it whenever you're faced with something that you know you're not particularly good at, because you're never going to get good at it if you don't try. You gotta try, you gotta keep on trying and keep on practicing. And that's what referencing also gives you. It gives you an opportunity to practice while you're working. So my deer here, it isn't perfect, and that's totally okay, because, you know, I've only drawn deer a few times. But in the end, when we finally get to the end of this video, I was satisfied with the work I had done, and I knew that I had learned a lot in the process as well. And I was also glad that I stuck with my guns and I did the challenging thing, because I really feel that the scenes with Georgia and the deer add a little bit of something to Georgia's journey as she overcomes her depression. So I guess you would say that my overall satisfaction of including these scenes with the deer and feeling like I have a more complete story totally outweighs the fact that maybe I'm not 100% confident with my animal drawing skills. So, you know, as long as you're happy in the end, that's what matters the most. That, and that you've told the story the way you really want to tell it, not just what you're getting by with telling based upon what you feel your skill limitation is. So that's why challenging yourself is so important in comic work. Alright, well, we're at the point of this video where I am done with the pencil phase, and I'm going to go ahead and move on to the inking phase. I usually dim down the blue line a little bit. Well, I change my pencil line to blue line, and then I dim it down, and then I will start inking on a new layer. And also, I want to mention that while I was inking this, I went ahead and I did pull up the reference image again, because my pencils are really loose, and when I do my inking I like to tighten them up. So by referencing the image again, I can continue to add detail during the inking phase, and will refine things too. For these inks, I'm going to go ahead and put in a little more hatching shading with the inks, and basically render a little more than I usually do, because I want to have this page be a little lighter on the tone. I don't want to be working with too many tones, because it can get confusing, and then you can wind up with moire and everything else. So let's get back on track here and start discussing a little more about challenging yourself. One thing I like to say is that challenging yourself is actually a good way to alleviate boredom. I know there's some artists you might hear on Twitter or Tumblr or wherever who will be like, I'm so bored with my comic already, and they already want to move on to like a new project. Well, you know, there's a lot of that happens to everyone. But, you know, if you start challenging yourself, then you've given yourself some additional goals, and it helps alleviate boredom. Because if you're only drawing what you feel comfortable with, then you are drawing essentially the same thing over and over again. But if you're challenging yourself and you're drawing something that you haven't experimented with before, it's something completely new, and that creates interest for you, the artist. So basically, challenging yourself kind of helps you get out of artistic ruts you may be in. It also makes you work outside your comfort zone, which is usually the times whenever you're going to grow the most as an artist. So let's talk about referencing a little bit, since it kind of goes hand in hand with challenging yourself and improving yourself. So basically, when you don't know how to draw something, you should look at a reference image to figure out how to draw it. There are some artists who've been practicing for years and years, and they don't need to reference much anymore. Maybe only a few things they'll reference. Or, you know, some artists who are in animation who've had years of experience, they may not reference at all, and that's fine. But if you're just starting out, you definitely need to be referencing things. And I notice one of the complaints is I don't have enough time to reference. And, you know, I'm just going to be blunt here, and I'm going to call bullshit on that. Pardon my language, but it is. You will, hands down, waste more time trying to figure out how to draw something you don't know anything about than you will looking up a reference and drawing from that life source. You will definitely waste time. So that's why I think that this idea of I don't have time to reference is the worst excuse imaginable. Basically, it's like this. If you have time to draw, you have time to draw from a reference. There really just is no excuse. I have to be hardline about this, so at least give me this, guys, if I'm really soft about everything else. And you know, one of the great things about referencing in this day and age, not to sound old, mind you, sorry, bad jokes. Okay, back on track. But seriously, one of the nice things is you have Google right here for you. You can just Google deer, and all of a sudden you're gonna have, you know, 500,000 pictures of deer because people take photos of them. And the other thing is like on my computer, I have this app called Photo Booth because I run a Mac, and I'm sure Windows users have something similar. It's basically you can take photos using your laptop camera, and it works like a photo booth. It gives you a little timer countdown so you can go get yourself into position. And of course, me, because I reference a lot, because I need the practice, I have a whole library of me doing idiotic things. And I think you all should have one too. We'll all be in shame together. I kid. But seriously, guys, it's as easy as taking a picture of yourself in whatever pose you want to have your characters in. Then you don't even have to go to Google and, you know, waste whatever, maybe 5-10 minutes you would waste trying to find the right pose. You would actually be able to act out the pose you want. On top of that, whenever you're doing your own reference photos for yourself and you're using the poses that you want your characters to use in your comic, you may come across a pose that actually doesn't feel real natural to you. And you may try a few other poses, and you may find another pose that feels a lot more natural and just looks so much more expressive. So, you know, there's really a lot of possibility there with, you know, finding references and creating your own reference. Here we are, guys. We're at the tone face. This means we're getting awfully close to the end of the video. Thank you for hanging in there with me and listening to all my blabber. But you know what? I actually like to listen to other artists blabber while I'm working, so maybe you do too. In which case, we have something in common. I'm getting a little punchy, aren't I? So guys, you know by now that I'm a huge proponent of referencing. But what if I told you that when I first started out, I was one of those people who was like, I don't have time to reference, I don't have time to do warm-up sketching, blah blah blah. Well, it's true. Sad but true. And you know what? That held me back. And now that I've seen the light, pardon me, and my bad singing. But, seriously, now that I've been referencing for all of Find Sometimes Rain, which, Find Sometimes Rain has been running now for, gosh, about 3 years? Yeah, I think so. About 3 years. So for the past 3 years, I have been referencing. And I think you'll notice that if you go back and you start at the beginning of my comic and you go all the way to the most current page, you'll see that I have experienced artistic growth. Oh my gosh. And you know, that's what everyone wants to see, right? We all want to see artistic growth. So, you know, here I am basically living proof that referencing is good for you. It's like eating breakfast in the morning, you know? So please, do the thing. Do the referencing. If you're not doing it for yourself, say, I'm gonna do it for you, Amy. No, don't do it for me. Do it for yourself. So basically, I say all these things because it's something I would have loved to have heard when I was a young artist just starting out. Because, you know, I really want you to not have the struggles that I had personally. And, you know, I want you to experience artistic growth, and I want you to be pleased with where you're at. And I want you to succeed at comics if that's your dream, or succeed at illustration, or whatever it is. So, you know, if I'm being hard on you by telling you reference, then it's just because, you know, I'm trying to mother you, let's face it. So that about does it for this video. Thank you for putting up with my lecture. Well, it sure sounded like a lecture anyway. If you like my videos, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to keep this updated as frequently as possible. If you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments. If you have any suggestions for future videos, you can leave them in the comments as well. Don't forget, I'm on all social media. I'm on Twitter, Tumblr, Instagram. I'm at Tsukiono on all 3 of those. And don't forget about my webcomic, Find Sometimes Rain at GenkiGirl.com. Of course, I mean, that's what you've been watching me create this whole video. So, again, thank you for watching, guys, and putting up with my horrible jokes and whatnot. So, see you next time. Bye-bye.